Previously on SDC's Tuesdays at Noon. Hey guys, my name's Phil, according to my left boob, and it's Tuesday, it's vaguely noonish, so let's do another one of these videos. We have survived yet another week, so life is good for us, for all of us, collectively. As promised, I got rid of the couch, but we used the cushions for the benches that I did make, and here's a picture of them. Ta-da! These benches that I made, they're kind of pretty much just planter boxes with cushions in them. So we got rid of the couch. I built these benches. If you want benches, let me know, I guess, my weight. I've been doing my normal circuit once around the block thing most days. I missed Thursday because it was my birthday, my actual birthday, not the show's birthday. And Stephanie made waffles from scratch and it was lovely, and there was no way I was gonna be like, well, that was great, and get up and just put on some sneakers and run around the block after some homemade waffles. That just would have been weird. So I didn't. So this week's video is number 2 of a 3-part series all about how to get your own sound, how to develop your own sound. There's a link at the end for last week's video. So last week I talked about the Wynton Marsalis effect and how if you do nothing but tribute and cover work, then you're not going to really develop much of your own sound because you're not being as creative as you could be. But this week's is all about making particular decisions on equipment in order to shape your overall sound. Starting with your drums to define your sound, there are general configurations that are very genre specific, so to speak. Usually for jazz and bebop, you know, straight ahead jazz stuff, you want a smaller kit, generally really small drums tuned super high, and that's a sound. For the rock and rolly stuff, you want bigger drums, you want the Bonham kit, you know, the 14, 16, 18, 37-inch bass drums, just which is another very particular sound. And there's everything in between, you know, or you might want 50,000 toms. It's all about how you want to sound, if you need those soundscapes, you know, but adding more toms is a bit of a rabbit hole, and one day you might end up just being Terry Bozzio. The size of your drums is very indicative of the sound that you're gonna get. Myself, I came up doing a lot of jazz and the funky stuff and the kind of R&B stuff, and that's kind of the sounds that I like to have in my head. Most gigs I'll bring a 4-piece kit, and by the way, if you don't know, pieces just refers to the amount of actual drums. It doesn't refer to cymbals or stands or any of that stuff. So it's like 1 tom, 2 tom, bass drum is 3, and the snare drum is 4. The shell material, when you're picking your kit, obviously has a lot to do with it. The kit that I picked has an interesting blend of materials. It's maple and walnut in the shells, and it's just a nice sound. You know what I mean? Maple has good projection, pretty warm sound as well. Nice, well-rounded, and the walnut just gives it a little bit more. And then when you get to your snare drum, it's like your snare drum is your signature. You know, like your backbeat sound is a very career-defining sound in the rock and pop and backbeat-based stuff. Yeah, so the size of your snare drum, whether you like a really high, cracking, piercing snare drum or whether you like that kind of mushy, blends in, that kind of blues, R&B kind of in the background kind of sound. Next on the drums is your heads and tuning choices. I tend to use 2-ply, really heavy heads, really thick heads, just to get more of a kind of a little bit more of a thuddy sound, but they're small, so they're not a deep thuddy sound. That's weird. I like a thump in my toms rather than a boing. But that's a personal preference. That's kind of part of my sound, I suppose. And the same goes for your bass drum and your snare drum. Yeah, and then cymbals, in the jazz world in particular, your ride is your signature, it's your autograph. My 21-inch hand-hammered vintage ride that I take to everything, it's a fantastic all-rounder. It is my ride sound. Your hi-hats are generally what people hear the most, right? When you're just kind of grooving along. So your hi-hat sound is very particular to your sound as well. I like my 13-inch hats, my little hand-hammered 13-inch hats that are vented on the bottom and have some rivets and can do heel splashes, and I can do a whole video just on my hats, on how much I love them and the whole process of getting them. I've been playing with the same hats forever, and they're incredible, you know. And then there's all the other stuff. You know, your crashes
and your chinas and your splashes and your stacks and your gongs and your thunder sheets and your whatever the hell else marketing jargon term people have come up with to redefine.
Changing up your equipment changes up your sound dramatically. There are people out there who are musical chameleons who will swap up their gear for everything, and you can still tell it's them when they're playing just because of the way they actually approach the instrument, which is what number 3 next week will be about. But for now, hopefully, my little 18-minute ramble, which I'll cut down to whatever, is kind of pointed you in the right directions, so to speak. If you want to change the way you sound, you got to change what you hit, essentially. That's what it all boils down to.
My name is Boingo and I am helping.
Like always, if you like what I'm doing, share, like, and subscribe. Share and like the video and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. That's always fun. So yeah, stay tuned next week for another exciting episode of Tuesdays at Noon, I guess.